can proceed.
Microphones appear to already have been on. We will order zoning appeals for Monday, April 28th, 2025. First item on the agenda is the approval of minutes from April 14th, 2025.
President, I move that we approve the minutes from April 14th, 2025.
Motion by Ms. Peters, second by Mr. Milborn. All those in favor, raise a hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. Looks like we have a special request / continuance.
Yes, good evening, Eric Prime on behalf of the petitioner Davis Homes. We were set for hearing on a couple of variances this evening, and we are still working through some issues with staff on that. As you can see, it was indicated that the continuance would be was requested to June 23, which I believe is the next available date. Unfortunately, I have a conflict that evening, and therefore we're requesting that continuance be granted to July 14, assuming I have the correct next date.
Yes, that would be correct. Okay. Motion to move. So moved. BZA 2025-008. Motion by Mr. King to move to July 14th, second by Mr. Mole. All those in favor, raise a hand. All opposed, same sign. You are moved to July 14th, Mr. Prime.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, findings of fact for BZA 2025-011. Well, before I move on, we don't have any other continuous special requests that aren't listed, correct?
No, that should be the only one that I'm aware of.
Okay. Then we move on to findings of fact, BZA 2025-011, development standards variance for petitioner Westminster Village for property at 295 Village Lane.
President, in consideration of statutory criteria, I move that we adopt the written findings of fact as presented, incorporating the evidence submitted into the record as our final decision and final action for variance petition number BZA 2025-011.
Motion by Mr. Peters, second by Mr. Mole. All those in favor, raise a hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. BZA 2025-012, a development standards variance for petitioner Cindy Thrasher for property at 733 Lowe's Boulevard.
In consideration of the statutory criteria, I move that we adopt the written findings of fact as presented, incorporating the evidence into the record as final decision, final action for variance petition number BZA 2025. 012, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
No, it was 11.
11 was the first one, right?
Sorry. Motion by Mr. Mole for BZA 2025-012. Second by Mr. Milborn. All those in favor, raise a hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. All right. We continued the old business that was on the agenda of BZA 2025-008. We have old business from the floor. Seeing none, we'll move to new business. First up is BZA 2025-013. This is development standards variance for 1640 Stones Crossing. Petitioner is Thomas Vander Lutengaren. Thomas Vander Lutengaren. I added another N in there. As you're requesting relief from two sections of the UDO. First is to increase the maximum lot size from 100,000 square feet to 273,102 square feet. And the second is to allow an accessory structure over 300 square feet to not have a 36-inch masonry plainscot. All presenting, stand and be sworn in by our secretary.
Yes.
Thank you.
And is everything in order, staff?
Everything is in order and in their file.
Okay.
Present the Grigson agreement with comprehensive plan and copy of the
And just to confirm, is there anyone online here for this docket? Seeing none, Mr. Vander Lutengaren, tell us why you're here.
Okay, good evening. My name is Tom Vander Lutengaren, I'm attorney at Van Baylor Law Firm. Our address is 225 South Emerson, Suite 181, Greenwood, Indiana, 46143. Yep. Go to the end of the presentation here real quick. So this is the parcel here. It's just north of Stones Crossing, north of the Emmanuel Church, and then see we're subdividing this ground. That's not obviously what I'm here for tonight. I'm here to get some relief from the ordinance with a couple variances. But I thought it would be helpful to see that picture, the acreage to the north, the unimproved ground there, by the apartments. It's west of the apartments, south of what used to be Hers. I just went by there the other day. It's Grand. It's changed names now 3 times, I think. Senior community there. Right by the Bargersville water tower. So kind of gives you an idea. And there's the structure that we'll be talking about on 3 sides. So I'll start with, there's the Manual Church, right off of Stones Crossing Road, my client. And there you can see the highlighted parcel that we're dealing with, just east of 135, north of Stones Crossing. A little closer up there, you can see the unimproved ground there. So it's not on the frontage there, it's a little in the back. Our first request relates to something pretty unusual for me. I've been practicing zoning law since 1997. I've never asked for a lot to exceed the maximum size allowed by the ordinance. I've always asked for something smaller because I'm trying. Rarely do we have something that's in excess of the maximum standards. So the way, Bargersville acquired a piece from the parent tract to put in the water tower, which then left us with what we've got. So the water tower is lot 1, and then we're subdividing it to lots 2 and 3. Lots 2 and 3 will meet the standards under the ordinance, and then we're left what will be lot 4. Right now, we currently have no intent to develop lot 4, and we have no intent to sell it without the church campus. Our intent is for lot 4 and campus to be together. So the reason we can't get another 5th lot in there is because of the water tower. Can't subdivide further to get enough street frontage. The only road frontage we have there is what leads to the water tower, basically, and now cuts into Emmanuel's parking lot, gives them another way out, just not on Stones Crossing anymore, but also on 135, which is helpful for traffic. But so looking at the statutory criteria, the use and value of the area, I skipped one. The approval will not be injurious to.
Yeah, Mr. Andrew Gutierrez, we've changed our process here a little bit. We're supposed to having you read what you turned in the staff report. If you can just confirm that what's in the staff report is what you submitted and your responses to the statutory criteria, we all have read that.
Okay.
So as opposed to just reading them verbatim, if you want to speak to them, you can, but there's no need to read them as long as we get your confirmation that that is what you submitted.
Yes, this is what I submitted. We believe that we've met all of the statutory criteria and they have laid out in the staff report. So nothing's changed with respect to the lot size.
Okay.
I can stop there or go into the masonry.
Let's go into the masonry.
Okay. Again, same statutory the statutory criteria are the same that were submitted in the staff report. So if you've reviewed them, I will not belabor any of that, as Phil Tinkle used to make me do.
We've done it for a long time. And
3.
we got some advice from legal that said if it was submitted in writing, we have the evidence and we were good.
So, seeing the pavilion there, it might help to understand the background. Emmanuel used to have a playground and a pavilion right off of Stones Crossing Road. They sold that piece to St. Franciscan, and then they have a church camp for kids every summer, about 600 kids. That's why they built this. They have no intentions to enclose it. primarily because after the construction of the apartments, the closed pavilion that used to be on Stones Crossing was frequently vandalized. I guess kids need something to do when they're not on their electronics. But so there's no intent to enclose this, and therefore it makes it impossible for us to put wainscoting on it. And it's always going to be an open structure. It's going to be used in the summer mostly. And I played tennis with one of my daughters yesterday at Freedom Park, and it's going to be used the same way that pavilions are used out there at our public parks. 500 to 600 kids for a couple months, giving them a place to go when they're eating lunch. We're doing other activities that don't involve the use of the unimproved grounds of the represent.
Anything else to add? Seeing that there's no one else to speak to this, I'll ask staff. I know that you had, I think you were favorable to number 1, but you had some concerns about number 2.
Yeah, we were favorable for number 1. It is a little bit of a unique scenario. Churches are allowed in essentially every zone of every zoning size. This is CM, which does have a limit. Currently, that's being platted as a block that has the option to be further subdivided in the future, but we don't know if it will or will not a block be developed as a lot. It's my understanding that the church intends to expand with parking lots, playground, outdoor recreational behind their church, which is in front of this structure, but on a separate lot. So that's where a lot of these issues have come into play. It was built on a separate lot that the church was on, because they had acquired that land after swapping with Franciscan, I believe, or
That's my understanding.
and so we didn't have as much concerns with that one, and it is a peculiar situation with how Barbersville Utility has taken a chunk out of the block already. For the second one, we found it difficult to meet the practical difficulty. The answer provided was basically that it was constructed in 2024. Provided the accessory structure was constructed in 2024, it would propose a practical difficulty. We were a little confused by that. The structure, I believe, was built in 2022, which was still under our current ordinance. We had let them know that it was in violation. It was built without a permit, and that it would need to go through the proper channels. It's now 2025. We are now before Board of Zoning Appeals, so I appreciate them following through on that. I think they're still working on some type of a setback solution with the other lot, but we didn't feel that met the practical difficulty, so we were looking a little bit for a little bit more of a elaboration for response number. The last response, which talks about practical difficulties, we didn't feel like we had a lot to go off of for our staff report.
Okay. Or you want to respond to that?
Yeah, I can't say for sure when it was. That could be my error, 2022 instead of 2024. I don't have that background. I didn't get involved until late last year, and I would say that fortunately about half of what I do involves asking for some relief after somebody's already done something. I can't say why architects or construction professionals didn't tell me to go get a permit. I can just say we would be here now if we were applying for a permit back then, we'd be asking for the same variance because the structure isn't going to be enclosed.
So for, I guess the variance is about the 36-inch masonry wrap. There have been standalone structures such as carports or gazebos that had wrapped columns. Is there what I'm asking, is there a practical difficulty that you can identify for wrapping with masonry on a structure like this.
Other than it just doesn't meet the purpose, you know, the added expense of wrapping these posts that are there. You know, they serve the purpose. If it's for aesthetics purposes, you know, closing the post with brick, I mean, it's. There's a good picture, but you can see it there. And there's other ways to deal with that with screening. Over here on the east side of the parcel, the apartments, based on when I was there, there's pretty good landscaping there, buffering the apartments.
Monty, could you move the image here? Thank you.
It doesn't show in this picture, this area, but maybe you can see it in my picture in the upper left-hand corner. You can see a little bit of the landscaping buffers along the two property lines. And right now, there's trees that are obstructed by the pavilion that you can't see. I mean, you can see the evergreens that are planted there right now that aren't very, you know, maybe they're 5 to 6 feet tall. They're going to get taller. I don't know how many there are, but for sure.
Okay. Anything else before I open it to the board? I'm sure we'll have some questions around that same thing. So.
Not from staff.
Okay. I'll close the public hearing. Mr. Wall?
Can you go back to your overall, the overhead shot for a second with the picture? Is it that thing right there?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, so it's like. So it's kind of like out.
It's just a gazebo behind they've got a field house.
Field house. Oh, is that what that is? Okay.
That's the field house that's in front of it.
The white box.
Yeah. All right, I'm good.
No. Mr. King?
If we weren't talking about the wainscoting, like if they were coming now, what would they get? What, a building permit? I mean, what's the?
Yeah, typically, you apply for a building permit and our building team has a check off in their application, basically flow chart, a workflow. And one of them is for planning and zoning to review the site to see if it needs a larger site plan, to see if there are any architectural elements or building materials that would be required to make sure it's on meeting setbacks, et cetera. So that's typically where it would be caught when the building permit is applied for. Currently, I think they have worked with our building department and are basically awaiting the determination of whether or not this structure can be built the way it is before they sign off. But they have now gone back and worked with our building team, and I think they're at a point where the variance process was what they're waiting on, and they're also still working with our legal department. If you own two properties next to each other, there are some ways that you can deed restrict them, or you can't sell one off without the other. There's also some opportunities in the future to maybe plat the actual church lot if development happens around them, where maybe that can be solved that way. So we've been working with the church on this kind of situation, but one of the items on their checklist to get back to your question about how this would be caught would be the building review and building permit. And I think safety-wise, the building is okay with the structure. There was nothing that, maybe some changes they had to make. They've made those changes. We're really just at a point where we have this meeting now, and then we'll report back to our building team.
So really, we could say the strict application is creating a practical difficulty. We grant our blessing, so we'll condition it with finish out the permit process.
No, I think that answered my question.
Yeah, and for me, expense is not necessarily a practical difficulty, and the fact that it was built before you come here, you know, is fine. To me, I don't understand. I get if this was an enclosed structure and there wasn't a lot of buffering and all of that, the wainscoting is really purely aesthetic. And you've got a bunch of posts that you're gonna have to wrap. Seems excessive for what the structure is intended for. And I would make an argument that that is somewhat of a practical difficulty, maybe not technically to the point, but it seems impractical to wrap every one of those posts to me with a 3-foot base.
I want to go ahead and add one more thing. If you're wrapping each of those with 3 foot of masonry, that becomes more of to me, a danger for the kids to run into that and be harmed by having that masonry on the bottom and getting hurt.
Very good.
So, I mean, if this is going to be used for
Summer camps.
summer,
church
I mean,
picnics.
things with kids, the wainscoting thing to me is a decorative exterior thing, not something that should be there to cause a harm to a kid. And to me, that would be harmful because the kids will be running in and out and they're going to scratch up against that brick, and that's going to be a problem.
The only other thing you could add as a second or even whatever, only a condition is that if they ever do decide to close it, which I know the statement was they don't, but if they ever do decide to
It's
close it,
not
then it no longer applies, they can get reapproved.
And that's easy.
That's all I have. So I will take a motion to admit all the evidence into the record.
President, I move that we admit all the evidence presented in regard to this matter, including the notices, receipts, maps, photographs, written documents, petitioner's application and attachments, petitioner's detailed statement of reasons, staff report prepared by the planning department, certified copies of the Unified Development Ordinance and Comprehensive Plan, testimony of petitioner, city planning staff, and any remonstrators, and all other exhibits presented, be they oral or written, for consideration by this board in regard to this petition, and to include the testimony of those present this evening.
Motion by Mr. Peters, second by Mr. Moll. All those in favor, raise your hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. I'll take a motion on request number 1, which is to increase the maximum lot size from 100,000 square feet to 273,102 square feet.
I move that we approve this with no conditions.
Motion by Mr. King to approve with no conditions, second by Mr. Peters. All those in favor, raise a hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. Number 2, to allow an accessory structure over 300 square feet to not have a 36-inch masonry wainscot.
All right. This is where I've got a couple of questions, I think, for Terry. If we say the owner shall complete, does that work for our church? I mean, if I say condition that the owner
Yeah, the applicant, those are that.
or the applicant, that's the better word, thank you. I knew there was a better word I was searching for. And then, I mean, are we able to condition it to say if it's ever enclosed, this becomes void?
Yeah, you can have a condition.
Okay. All right, I move that we approve the request with 2 conditions. 1, that the applicant shall complete the permitting process with the city. 2, that should the building ever be enclosed, this variance will no longer be applicable.
Motion by Mr. King to approve with 2 conditions. 1, the applicant shall complete the permitting process with the city, and 2, should the building ever be enclosed, this variance is void. Second by Mr. Moll. All those in favor, raise a hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. Take a motion to direct the corporation's council to draft written findings of fact.
Having considered the statutory criteria, I move that we direct the corporation's council's office to draft written findings of fact regarding our decision on the variance request presented in variance petitioner BZA 2025-013. Said findings specifically incorporate the staff report and evidence submitted into the record for consideration and adoption by the Board of Zoning Appeals as their final decision and final action regarding the petitioner.
Motion by Mr. Moll, second by Mr. Peters. All those in favor raise a hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. You are free to proceed. Working with the staff, we'll take final action in a couple.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too. Next up is BZA 2025-014, the development standards variance for 1408 Griffith Road. The petitioner is Troy Franklin Jr. Requesting relief from one section of the UDO, which is to allow an accessory structure over 300 square feet to not have a 36-inch masonry wainscot. There's no one here physically. Is there someone online presenting for this?
Yes, my name's Troy Franklin, and I own the property.
Okay, Mr. Franklin, welcome. Before we get started, staff, is everything in order?
Yes, everything's in order and in our files.
Now, offer the city agreement comprehensive plan and other non-conference.
All right, Mr. Franklin, I'm going to have you raise your right hand and be sworn in by our secretary.
Do you swear not to perjury, testimony is true to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
All right, Mr. Franklin, tell us why you are here.
The county is requiring a 36-inch masonry wainscot, and because it's just a cosmetic addition, I'm requesting that I be allowed to not have it. I did put a 36-inch wainscot that is black to match the roof of my barn, and cosmetically it looks fine. So I'm just requesting that I stay in compliance with the county.
Okay, and you answered the statutory criteria submitted to staff, and the staff in their staff report has noted that. I just need your confirmation those are the answers you submitted.
Yes.
Okay, and anything else you want to add before I ask staff for their input?
If I put wainscot that's masonry on my building, it'll be the only one on my street that has it. It looks like all the barns that have been built don't have it. So I'm assuming that they either got the approval or you guys just don't know about it. But I'm just asking to stay in compliance.
Okay. Staff, again, unfavorable recommendation. You want to tell us your opinion here?
Sure. Again, we have a case where the structure was built without city approval. In this case, the structure does have 4 walls and a wainscoting could have been applied. But they didn't get city approval. So that's our stance on it.
Okay. Mr. Franklin, any response to that or anything you want to add before I open it up to the board?
I don't have anything else to say. Thank you.
All right, I'll close the public hearing. Mr. Moll?
So did they have a building permit and just build it, or?
It'd be a retroactively, working on that.
It's the same situation.
I got a question.
Mr. Milborn?
As long as they're working on a permit.
Mr. King?
I'm saying, as long as they're in the permitting process, I don't see a problem with approving it.
Mr. Peters?
I'm looking at the city's recommendation for all this planting around the building. I'm trying to figure out what was the intent for that since it sits so far away from the road. What would be the value for the planting, or trees or shrubs, whatever?
Well, the wainscoting is an aesthetic element, so the planting would also be aesthetic and kind of hide that there isn't a masonry wainscoting.
And you did view all of the other pole barns in the area, and the rest of them all have wainscoting, or is this gonna be standing out on its own because it's gonna be the only one with wainscoting as the petitioner indicates?
That is correct.
So it would be the only one like that.
Well, the surrounding properties are all brick.
Yeah,
No,
I
I'm talking
think-
about the other buildings, other pole barns. He indicated no other pole barns have the brick wainscoting. Did we look and see what the other pole barns look like, so let's see if they're consistent in the neighborhood?
The other pole barn should have no effect on the current ordinance
Well,
that
I'm
we
just
have
looking
right
for
now.
consistency in the neighborhood.
Well,
Is what I'm
that's
looking
not
for.
the criteria that we're evaluating off of. There's no criteria that says, is it consistent with what neighbors have done in the past?
I know we've used that in the past, though, that's right.
You shouldn't use that. You may have, but that's not a practical difficulty.
I'm like,
I think, again, interesting here is, as we stated, the intention of the brick wainscot is for aesthetic purposes. And while this was not permitted and built prior to that, they actually did go through with the different coloring at the bottom to create that aesthetic offset. I don't know if that truly creates a practical difficulty in then adding the brick, but it does seem the intent of the purpose of the requirement of the ordinance was met. I don't know that going retroactive to the permit will change whether they need the brick, or would they indicate, that will just indicate that it's still safely built and doesn't have any structural concerns, correct?
The building team typically looks more at building safety, whereas the planning, the unified development ordinance would be more character, aesthetics, what materials you can use, whereas the building is more looking at what kind of screws did you use, how many support beams do you have, is it built with sound construction?
Okay. The other thing is, does not appear like it's fairly visible to much around it. But that comes into consideration for the practical. That's all I have. I'll take I guess any other comments before I ask to admit all the evidence?
Well, I was
Mr.
gonna say-
Moll, you look like thinking.
Well, I was just curious, like, does it matter how far back away from the road with our variant, or with our ordinance? Does it specify like how many feet? Does it matter if it's a couple hundred feet away from the main road or not? It's like, if you're looking at the map, I mean, it looks like it might be like 200, 300 feet away versus like a residential neighborhood where you have like smaller, closer houses. I didn't know.
Yeah, ours doesn't have any nuance to different zoning or different distances from the road. I know it's basically just if it's larger than 300 square feet, wainscot required. If it's smaller than 300 square feet, wainscot not required. That's the way it's currently written at this time. It would take a text amendment, county council to alter that, which may be something that we look at, but no, at this time, there's nothing.
I was just curious. It's just
How many square feet is this?
1,200.
Oh, it's 12. Oh, 12.
It's 30 by 40.
12. Yes, okay, thank you. My math,
Well, I did the math when you said the 300. I was like,
usually math is very thing. I wasn't. I'm coming up with 112%.
My only other thought is that we have said with this same type of structure before, that what you said, they met the intent by that.
No, I would agree, we've set a lot of precedent on this subject before.
I get the aesthetic desire of the ordinance. I think if we try to change our precedent, we're starting to create.
There you go.
Okay, I will take a motion to admit all the evidence in the record.
President, I move that we admit all the evidence presented in regard to this matter, including the notices, receipts, maps, photographs, written documents, petitioner's application and attachments, petitioner's detailed statement of reasons, the staff report prepared by the planning department, certified copies of the Unified Development Ordinance and Comprehensive Plan, testimony of the petitioner, city planning staff, and any demonstrators, and all other exhibits presented, be they oral or written, for consideration by this board in regard to this petition and to include the testimony of those present this evening.
Motion by Mr. Peters, second by Mr. Moll. All those in favor raise a hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. Motion on the ballot itself to allow an accessory structure over 300 square feet to not have a 36-inch masonry wainscot.
I move that we approve this request with the one condition that the applicant shall complete the permitting process with the city.
Motion by Mr. King, second by Mr. Milborn to approve with the one condition that the applicant shall complete the permitting process with the city. All those in favor raise a hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. I will take a motion to direct the Corporation's Council to draft written findings of fact.
Having considered the statutory criteria, I move that we direct the Corporation's Council Office to direct written findings of fact regarding our decision on the variance request presented in various petition number BZA 2025-014. Said findings typically incorporate the staff report and evidence submitted into the record for consideration and adoption by the Board of Zoning Appeals as our final decision and final action regarding this petition at our next meeting.
Motion by Mr. Moll, second by Mr. Peters. All those in favor raise a hand. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. Any new business from the floor? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Walters, you are also okay to proceed. You work with staff on getting your permit in order, and we will take final action in a couple weeks. You do not need to be here.
We'll let the residential building inspector, Aaron Cruz, know the result from tonight. I assume you're probably working with Aaron Cruz. You might be working with Matt or Ken or Josh, but we'll communicate with them tomorrow morning.
Be free to. Mr. Franklin, you still there? Oh, there you are. Did you hear that, Mr. Franklin?
No, could you repeat it, please?
I was gonna say, we will let the building department know. They're probably working with Aaron Cruz. We'll let him know in the morning the result of tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So otherwise, you're good to proceed. Thank you.
Thank you. Enjoy your day.
You. All right, so new business from the floor, seeing none. Any announcements? Oh, wrong way, look this way for announcements.
I'll make an announcement at Plan Commission. We are going to be presenting a few of our permit applications that we're doing updates to, just 3 of them out of the 11 or 12 that we have. Staff is working on some updates, so if you're interested, you can attend that meeting as well, but it'll be the Plan Commission. They're the ones tasked with approving applications and forms. We just have some out-of-date references, new fees, and a few other aesthetic updates that we're doing.
Very. Sounds like we have a full schedule next time as well. Based on the comments from Mr. Prime about the next available will be June 28th.
Well, he had a conflict.
He had a
He had
conflict,
a
yeah.
Okay. All right. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.